Do you remember that time when JC Backfire was the first person in the world to complete Gorog Krovi's main quest Easter egg? Well, no, actually he wasn't first because someone else actually cheated to get there before him. A small streamer named Slyless and his friends were live streaming the entire day of Gorog's release just like everybody else, but when a bunch of the steps began to get solved, his team started a new game using a cheat. There's a gobblegum named Undead Man Walking where all the zombies will be limited to their walking / shambling speed for 4 minutes. It's actually still used these days by a lot of people for Easter eggs because it's just so good and is easy to get a lot of them. But back in 2016, this gobblegum was only a few months old and was very easy to exploit. If someone left their match while eating the Undead Man Walking gobblegum, it would keep the zombies at their walking speed for the rest of the game. Then the next round, the player who did that could join back in and keep on playing. This was extremely overpowered on Gorog Krovi because many of the steps involved either keeping zombies away from objects or just the escort step where a lot of groups of people were having trouble with it. Also, obviously the boss fight, where being able to entirely ignore the zombies because they're so slow or having more time to deal with them would be a huge and unfair advantage. It didn't help either that this team got absolutely flamed by the community for screaming over the cutscene's audio the entire time, which was a big no-no. Especially at this point in the Ether story where people were more invested than they had ever been, so hearing every single word was really important to a lot of people. I remember this happening because I was on a team at the time who ended up about 15 minutes behind JC's legit first world's completion, and it was really kind of a punch in the gut for someone to cheat their way through. As much as it sucked though, Slyless got way too much hate for this that eventually forced him to leave content creation altogether, eventually deleting his Twitch channel. Keeping on theme with that, let's talk about Classified. As a lot of you probably know, when Black Ops 4 released, it got a lot of hate because of the crashing issues. More specifically on high rounds, and while turning on the cartoon filter did help, it just wasn't possible to go very much over round 100 even if you got really lucky. And when through a leak / data mine of the game, we found out for the first time ever an Easter egg would be completed by reaching round 150, it pissed a lot of people off. How the hell were we supposed to complete this and get the ending cutscene when anyone who tried to do it would just crash on, let's say, round 90? Well, after a few weeks of waiting for a patch, the gaming revolution decided to take fate into his own hands. On Black Ops 4, you can normally only complete Easter eggs in regular matches with no modifications, but there was a little known glitch the gaming revolution knew about where you could enter custom mutations and enable the settings where only hellhounds would spawn in. This made rounds much quicker and there would be less of them than normal zombies, but also a lot more than the usual 10 or so that you'd normally see in hellhound rounds. He also increased his health to the 350 maximum, then once TGR left that game, he could enter a regular match with all of those settings still enabled. After a few hours of playing like that, the longest Easter egg hunt in zombies history was over and people were mad immediately. Before this had even happened, Gaming Rev was already kind of a controversial figure in the community because he used to post clickbait videos that sometimes ended up being a little less than true. So when he glitched to complete a world's first, he got death threats, thousands of dislikes, dozens of Reddit threads, and people still bring this up to discredit him almost 5 years later. And as someone who actually knows him, he's a much different person now and has done a lot of self-growth in the last couple of years. In case this is all you really knew about him, he's a pretty good person actually. And truthfully, looking back now, sure, it was cheated and a little bit shit, but what else could we have done? We didn't know if the high rounds were ever going to be fixed, and it turns out that they weren't going to be happening for another 6 weeks or so. To me, it seems like the wrong person at the wrong time, taking on all of the frustrations of a community who were more than a little bit annoyed at Black Ops 4's rough launch, but he really didn't deserve all the hate that he got. And while that happened at the beginning of the game's life cycle, this one happened at the very end. In Infinite Warfare Zombies, there was a card system like Black Ops 3's Gobblegums, and some of them were very good. But when DLC 4 launched with Beasts from Beyond, along with a lot of other additions, there was a card called Purify that became completely broken. If it worked properly, it would heal the player a little bit quicker than normal while damaging nearby zombies. The problem was that the developers accidentally made the healing way too powerful to the point where unless you were completely surrounded, downs were just not going to happen. It was found out pretty quickly and was used in the Beasts from Beyond boss fight without a lot of controversy seemingly, but what was controversial was when it was discovered that there was a super Easter egg boss fight, it got used there as well. Basically, in order to unlock this boss fight, what you needed to do was complete all of the Easter eggs and collect the soul keys, and once you finished the Beast from Beyond boss fight, you would enter an area to prepare for the hardest boss fight in Zombies history. Mephistopheles was insane, having tons of health, insta-kill mechanics, and throwing a crazy variety of enemies with 5 times their normal health at you constantly. It was meant to be a true test of skill for people who were dedicated, but of course it got cheesed for its first ever completion. The developers actually knew about this, with lead developer Lee Ross even saying in one of the livestream chats that it was the dev's fault. He couldn't really be mad at people for using what was in the game even if he preferred it wasn't used, and he clarified on Reddit later on saying it wasn't his decision to decide who is world's first because for all he knew some random who wasn't streaming could have done it. To me this sounds like a careful, calculated response to where he gets his point across that it was a glitch that shouldn't have been there, but did not want to take sides on any of the community arguments. Sure, it was slightly less egregious than something like Gorok Krovi, but the fact that it was used in 2 worlds first is just way over the top, and that seemed to be the community's general sentiment as well. Like, okay, fine, use it once if you really felt it was necessary, but they really should have stopped after a little bit to allow whoever was the best player in the world to finish Mephistopheles first. And the last one I'm going to talk about today may be the worst of them all and requires a bit of context. Right after Black Ops 4 launched, an old Treyarch QA tester went onto Reddit and posted the exact steps from multiple unsolved side quests. He had his own personal reasons for doing this, like the fact that he felt he wasn't treated well on the job, and shortly after this he deleted every trace of himself from the internet in case he got sued because it was obviously violating his non-disclosure contract that he signed. But when the DLC season came around, things kinda got really weird again. Mr. Awful Waffles, Newbie, and Smart Guy were hunting for the Dead of the Night Easter egg. Now normally people take suggestions from the chat and it's nothing unusual, but then someone named XI Knight showed up in the livestream chats. He began giving each of them a step-by-step tutorial on how to complete the entire Easter egg without getting any of the steps wrong. It turned out that Knights had learned all of this information from his friend named Curse Blackwing, who was a QA tester on Dead of the Night. While all of this was happening, Glitching Queen actually finished the Easter egg way before Milo's group using a similar custom mutations glitch to what happened on Classified. She then claimed she didn't upload the cutscene right away as she was waiting for someone else to finish it legitimately first, but once she realized what was happening with Milo's group getting all of the steps, she uploaded it anyway. There was a lot of extra drama with this, where one of the streamers claimed that Glitching Queen was in the wrong for finishing it unlegitimately, and that this iKnights guy could have just been some random who completed the Easter egg himself. But personally, I think everyone involved in this situation is wrong. Firstly, the group did not have to take this guy's advice and could have easily banned him once they realized that he knew everything way before anyone else did. But the decision was made to just go with it for the sake of a world's first, and that person could have just gone to someone else's stream who would have listened to him. The leaker also sucks for ruining the hunt for the community, the QA tester sucks for telling his friend the entire Easter egg step for step until the end, and Glitching Queen also clearly got the steps from somewhere early where she had then finished it with a glitch and only posted the cutscene when she did because she realized someone else also had an unfair advantage. There was no winners here, and the people who really lost were the community and developers who were looking forward to a new Easter egg hunt after a hard few months. Leave a like if you found all of this interesting, and if you're interested in the deeper meaning behind the zombie storyline, my girlfriend made a great video covering the philosophy of Ether. It's on the screen right now. Love you, bye bye.